Sage and Stone Homestead. My name is Heather and today is cream separating day. Hi baby. Go ahead, pass through. So you're going to be hearing a couple things in the background. I do have children and I'm trying to be a productive human being today. So I have run the dishwasher, I've run the clothes washer. You're going to be hearing some things in the background because we live here. So right around 3/4 of a gallon is what I can expect every day, and I milk once a day. And even though we are drinking our milk fresh every day and I am cooking with it, milk still piles up in the fridge and I need to deal with it. So right around every other time that my refrigerator fills up with milk, I will cream separate. The other times I just make a whole ton of farmer's cheese, and when I have a week like that, I will make sure to film it for you. But today is cream separating day, which actually has a lot going on because I'm not only going to be separating the cream, I'm going to be restarting my kefir grains, and I am making some chev. So I happen to have 3.5 extra gallons of milk, and that's what I am working with today. 2.5 roughly of the gallons are in this pot here, and 1 gallon of it is over here. So in order to cream separate the milk, I need to heat it up to 100 degrees. And even though I'm heating the milk, it still remains raw because the milk comes out of the goat at 103 degrees. So all of the nice raw milk properties are still preserved through this heating process. And I'm watching it carefully with my thermometer here. This gallon of milk down here I'm going to be turning into chev, and the chev cultures that I have that I bought from the New England Cheese Company tell me to heat the milk up to 86 degrees. So this is still going to be a very living product at the end. So I've got the milk heating up on both burners right now, and every so often I am just stirring things around to make sure that it doesn't stick or scald. Both of these pots, this one is stainless and this one is enameled cast iron. They are nice and heavy bottomed, and that's what you want when you're working with milk. So while those are heating up, I'm going to reawaken my kefir grains. So kefir is a fermented dairy beverage that tastes a lot like yogurt. And when I've made yogurt in the past, I can't get it to thicken up well. I have tried pasteurizing my milk before I add my yogurt culture. I have tried adding gelatin. I really like a nice thick yogurt, and that takes actually a lot of work, more work than I'm willing to put in every couple of weeks for yogurt. So we decide that kefir is a lot easier for us. The kids love it and it tastes the same and has the same benefits. So we're gonna do this. Normally I will make my kefir in a quart-sized jar, but while I am reawakening these frozen kefir grains, I'm gonna start small. I want to be able to give these kefir grains as much benefit to overpower the culture in the milk as much as possible. A lot of people will use pasteurized milk for their kefir. I do not. I use raw milk, and so these kefir grains, they've already been working with raw milk earlier in the spring, and so they are used to working with the cultures in the raw milk. Sometimes cultures, depending on what they are, they can compete in the jar, and you might not get a satisfactory product, or at least not what you're looking for out of it. This will work for me though. So it's really hard to tell what's going on here, but these little cultures are going to go straight in my pint-sized jar here. It's about a tablespoon's worth of kefir grains, and I haven't thawed them back out. They're just frozen going into the jar here. Now it's time to add our raw milk. I have this fermentation lid here that I really enjoy. I got these from fermentaholics.com. I'll link them below. It's got a little stopper at the top that allows fermentation gases out, but it doesn't allow anything to get inside of the jar. So I'm just gonna allow this to sit on the counter and I'm gonna watch it. I'm going to feed it every day. I need to double check and make sure that I don't need to be feeding it every 12 hours while it is reawakening. But in any case, this is waking up, and I'll go over kefir much more in depth in a different video. Oh yeah, this one's actually too hot. Boink. The milk that I'm going to be using for chev has actually heated up more than the recommended temperature that is on the package of my chev culture. So I'm going to remove it from the burner and allow it to cool back down because I don't want to kill any of those lovely cultures. Actually, the milk over in this tall pot is the temperature that I'm looking for my chev. So I'm going to pull a gallon of milk out of this pot and use that instead. So I've got this really awesome gallon-sized jar, and I have this large weck lid that just sits on top. This and my chev culture and the warm milk is all I'm going to need in order to make lovely chev cheese, which we will actually use like a cream cheese here. This is the canning funnel from WEC. It's got a nice wide bottom on it, and it does work well on the gallon-sized jars that I have here. Helps minimize the spillage because Lord knows I always make a mess in the kitchen, always. I also have issues with my elbow, and my chiropractor has instructed me to work smarter and not harder. That's why you don't see me just lifting up and pouring out of my pot here. You could if you have the strength. Alrighty, so now that the milk, the warm milk, is moved over into the gallon-sized jar, I can add my chev culture. I'm just gonna be sprinkling the culture over the top and allowing it to rehydrate before stirring it in, putting on the lid, and setting it on the counter as well. Right now it's 12:30 p.m. and this will take probably right around 24 hours to separate. You're gonna see the separation between curds and whey, and then we will strain it, but we'll do that in the morning. And now that this is taken care of, it's time to separate out the cream from the rest of the milk. What I'm working with is a Slavic Beauty cream separator. I got it from Caprine Supply online, and I will link them below as well. This has been a very worthy purchase. Cream separators are a very expensive item to have. They are very bulky. It's a little bit difficult to figure out how to store them. But when you have goats, the cream does not readily separate. The milk that they have is naturally homogeneous. So in order to get the most out of the milk that we have coming in and increasing the value of our dairy goats, we went ahead and made this investment, and I would highly suggest that you do so as well. So down here on the cream separator, there's two spouts. The milk is up here in the reservoir, and it's gonna come down and go through this centrifuge system. The cream is gonna come out this spout, and skim milk is gonna come out this spout. Actually a little bit less than 2.5 gallons that we had to work with all told, but we got about a quart of cream, which in general should translate to around 4 sticks of butter, but we'll figure that out tomorrow because I find that making butter goes much smoother when I have completely chilled the cream. It just won't break into butter when it's warm for me. I know a lot of other people have different experiences. I use my KitchenAid mixer to make my butter now, and that's what works best for me is completely chilled cream. You may notice that I marked everything the 20th. That's because the oldest milk that got all mixed up together was from the 20th. So I want to consider that we have that old milk in all of these bottles now since it was all put in together. In general, for me, milk will stay fresh and fresh tasting for around 8 days. And after that point, it starts to clabber. And clabbered milk isn't bad for you. I've actually made many a cottage cheese out of clabbered milk. I will say too that I have used skim before to make the chev that I've made before, and I have used skim to make farmer's cheese. It does work, though the finished product is definitely more crumbly. And for my farmer's cheese and absolutely for the chev, which again, like I said, we use as cream cheese, I like a creamier, smoother product. So you could use skim to make both of those things. They're just gonna be a little bit different textured than what might be ideal. A salad crumble cheese every once in a while is definitely not a bad thing. Alrighty, so it's the next day, and we're going to do things today in the same order that we did them yesterday. So first things first, I'm going to strain and refeed my kefir grains. I don't think everything has quite woken up yet because it looks pretty liquidy in there, which is normal because the grains aren't quite active. I've got this little nylon strainer here. I'm going to set it on top of a funnel, on top of a jar. And I'm going to strain the milk through that sieve and get the grains out. It definitely smells like things are going well in here. It smells really fresh and lovely, a lot like fresh yogurt. gonna add another pint of fresh milk to feed those greens. And within around 3 to 4 days, we should be getting a nice thick kefir every day, right around a pint to a quart, depending on how much we want to make that day. Alrighty, now it's time to strain the whey out of our chev. So you can see that there's a really nice separation between the curds and whey in the jar. Everything has gone just as it should have. Really great smell, super similar to the kefir, but there's absolutely a different culture going on, and you can tell just by smelling it. So I have a damp kitchen towel here. You could use cheesecloth, but the curds in chev are so fine and the cheese is so creamy that I don't like to use any towels that have any kind of open holes, because I'll be losing cheese through those holes. Like a jello mold. Is that funny? Can you see that in there? It would be really satisfying if we could get this out all in one chunk, but we can't. Remember what I said about me making messes? Every day. So what I'm gonna aim to do here is actually to hang this bag of chev from my cabinet door up here. So you can see here I have tied the corners together that were right across the street from each other. And in order to not let this knot kind of sit in my cheese, I'll show you a trick that I like to do to keep most of the fabric out of the middle of it. So I'm going to lift up on the knot with my hand and take one of the other corners and slip it underneath the knot, so that the knot is now on the outside of my bag here, and I can tie these two to my cabinet door handle. I normally have one of those long plastic chip clips that kind of has a hinge on one side and clips over. I like to put that up here just to keep any flies or gnats out. I don't have any at the moment. I don't know where they went. So I'm just going to take some clothespins and make sure that I have everything closed up as tight as I can. So we don't want any surprises in our cheese. So I will leave this for a good portion of the day, and I'll probably package it up for the freezer tonight. Basically, I'm waiting for most of the whey to drain out, and you can really take the cheese down and package it up whenever you are ready, depending on how dry you like your cheese. In general, I will wait for it to basically just stop dripping on its own. I don't necessarily squeeze the moisture out of it. I will, though, I'll come around throughout the day and just kind of massage it so that any pockets of whey that might be kind of stuck in there can make their way down through the kitchen towel. The whey that's formed here is considered a sweet whey, and there are so many amazing uses for sweet whey. I'm going to list them on the screen here because I know that I'm going to forget some if I go ahead and try to list them all here for you. So this is absolutely something that you want to keep and you want to utilize as much as you can. Often what we do is we just use this as a supplemental animal feed for our pigs and for our chickens. It gives them a really great nutrient and microbiology boost, if you will. I know one of the things a lot of people like to do with whey is to make ricotta cheese from it. I have tried this numerous times and I have been unable to get any further curds out of this finished whey here. So if you know a secret, I will gladly hear it. We'll leave the chev here to do its thing while we make the butter. So this is the cream that we got from yesterday. It's absolutely fully chilled by now. I'm going to be using my KitchenAid mixer with the bulb whisk attachment to make the butter. I'm just gonna pour this cream straight inside the bowl. And we'll get as much as we can out with a spatula. So I've got the cream in there and I'm going to turn on the mixer to about a 6 and just let things whip until the cream breaks into butter and buttermilk. I'm gonna stop it right here. This is not butter, but if I wanted to, if I wanted some whipped cream to top a good old pumpkin pie, that is what we would have at this point. We have effectively whipped the cream into whipped cream, but we need to whip it even more to get butter. Some of the whipped cream likes to kind of hang out on the edge of the bowl, so I will stop it every once in a while just to bring everything back down to where the whisk can get a hold of it. You can see we do have a little bit of liquid down at the bottom here. You might feel like you have butter at this point. You do not quite yet, so keep whipping. There we have it. All right, so what we have here now is separated butter and buttermilk. The butter starts to stick to the whisk and stick to itself. And the buttermilk is down here in the bottom of the bowl, and then we'll strain that out. Okay, so what I have down here is butter and buttermilk. And buttermilk gets a really awesome flavor once it is cultured, and the only thing we have to do in order to culture our buttermilk, remember this is raw cream that came from raw milk, is to set our buttermilk out on the counter with a lid on it for probably overnight. I'll come back to it in the morning. It should smell nice and sweet and fermented, a lot like yogurt. And then I can put this in the refrigerator and maybe use it for pancakes or biscuits this week. And a fun fact, if you didn't already know it, those really commonly known Parmesan cheese containers, the lids, they fit great on top of the regular mouth mason jars. So the butter that I have down here does have residual buttermilk in it, and I need to get out as much of that buttermilk as I can, or else the butter is not going to last as long. Fat, pure fat, is pretty well shelf stable. It's when you include some of the proteins that can help it go rancid much quicker. So I want to get all of that whey out of the butter, and I'm going to do so by rinsing it over the sink with cool water. And PSA, this is what your sink looks like when you have dairy animals, because dishes never end when you have this much dairy to deal with. And again, we're only getting about 3/4 of a gallon a day. The people that get 5 gallons a day from cows, I tip my hat to you, sir, because that's a lot to deal with. If we used hot or warm water, our butter would melt, and that's not the point. So, cool water. You can see at first that the water inside the bowl is quite milky looking. I'm going to be doing basically a rinse and repeat until the water is clear. While I'm rinsing the buttermilk out, I am using my hands to knead the butter around and make sure that there's no buttermilk hiding in any of those cracks and crevices. So we're going to have a nice clean ball of butter at the very end. I've got a plate here with a nice dry clean towel that I did put through the dryer. I don't want any lint balls or little hairs and things to be in my butter. What a pretty butter ball. But I'm going to base how much salt I put in the butter on how much butter there actually is. And that's going to vary season by season, goat by goat, day by day. So usually I get about 4 sticks of butter. We'll probably have a little bit less. I'm going to start out with 1 teaspoon of salt and give it a taste after that. That's good. It's a good amount of salt for this much butter. So now we get to mold it. I got this cute little butter mold online and it works out really well for us. And then I will put it in the freezer to actually harden up nice so I can unmold it without issue. Alrighty guys, so here we have a showcase of all of the things that we got out of our milk this particular processing day. There's so many other things that we can do with our milk, especially because we have the cream separator. With the cream, we usually will make butter, but we could have used the whipped cream. We could have just used the cream by itself for our coffee. We could have made ice cream. Another thing that I mentioned briefly before that I've made with my skim milk or with my whole milk is cottage cheese. So I'll link that video up here if you want to give it a click, and we'll see you next time.